Hey everyone, it is Stephanie here with Infernal TV, and I'm here with John Ricci of PowerRage. So, how are you?
Stephanie, I'm doing great today. Nice weather here in Canada, so we're all happy here because once the weather turns nice, everyone's in good mood.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah, yeah.
actually lived in Montreal for 3 years, so I remember the long winters, and then once it starts warming up, and it's like everybody just goes out, downtown and parties.
Well, I mean, everyone goes out, they're on the patios, the whole place comes alive, but Canadian winters are really hard, and I've been here, in Ottawa most of my life, but I'm still not used to it.
I know it's one of those things you can never get used to. Well, I live in Florida, so it's the complete opposite now. It's the beginning of this time. It just gets like excruciatingly hot, and then we have hurricane season and ugh.
Well, I know I've been in Florida numerous times, but everybody kind of moves slower and they're not in a rush to get anywhere.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
changing. A lot of people moved out here over the last few years, so it's been more, I guess, a hustle and bustle culture, especially in Tampa where I live. But yeah, for the most part, we are very chill people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a great place to be.
Awesome. Well, let's get started with, let's just go into talking about Power Rage. So, you are a legendary musician with everything that you've done with Exciter in the past, and with Power Rage, you just completely started over, started fresh, and then, focused on something completely different. So, for you, was that liberating or was that more intimidating?
It wasn't intimidating because I listen to all kinds of music, like metal music, and I absorb the doom stuff and the thrash and everything. So I absorb all these different styles, even though I think Exciter was one of the originators of speed and thrash. But I just wanted to move on from Exciter. Like, when you listen to Power Rage, yes, you kind of hear that signature guitar style that I have, which is comes natural to me. It's not forced whatsoever. But I just wanted to write something that was with the times, but still some old school elements in it as well. And I wanted to write good arrangements of songs, not just songs thrown together really quickly. Because the 8 songs I wrote for the Beast album, it took me 2 years, but they're 8 good songs. There's no filler songs on the album, as far as I'm concerned. So it was a conscious effort, and it came natural for me to write these songs, but it was calculated because I always write songs from the audience point of view because I picture myself going to see my favorite metal band or whatever band. I picture myself in the audience. You know what I mean? Like so and I figure, well, this I want to be blown away tonight by this band. So I write songs from the audience point of view, but I wanted to write songs that were really catchy, that people remember. They remember the vocal lines, they remember the guitar riffs. So it was a lot of hard work. So yeah.
And I do agree with what you said. There is no filler track. The album is great from front to back. So, and that does bring me to my next question because you wrote everything, as you said, both the music, the arrangements, and the lyrics. So, did all of that come easily, and were there any challenges?
Well, I just wanted to be in control of everything. It was a mutual agreement among the band members. But if I was going to do this all over again, start from scratch, I had to do it my way. I think I have the vision and the creativity uh, to come up with a successful formula, which I think I did because a lot of the interviews I've done, the journalist is saying this sounds original. Well,
Right.
that's my number one goal. I don't want to sound like this band and that band and a guitar riff similar to this band. That's not the way I do things. I always try to be really, really original. So, and I have this really strong vision of what I wanted this band to sound like. So, I wanted to please your typical heavy metal audience. I wanted to please people who would normally not listen to this kind of music, get their attention. I wanted to please Exciter fans, so I was trying to put everything um, in one bowl, so to speak, to please all these different types of listeners with the music. So it was a mutual agreement among the band members, let me do everything, and we'll see what happens. But it's been an overwhelming response around the world. We got signed to our record deal with High Roller Records, like immediately as soon as they heard the two-song demo that I originally sent them. They contacted me right away, and we're a signed act just like that, like which is every musician's dream. You're not doing demo after demo after demo and waiting for responses. I mean, I had sent out 20 submissions to record companies around the world. 18, there was no reply. The 19th one said we're not interested. But then the 20th was High Roller Records, and they were over the moon about the new material and the new band. So I'm pretty content right now. I'm much more relaxed today because um, our record is officially released tomorrow. And on our Facebook, we're getting all these comments and flattering comments about everything from the media and from the fans. So, this is the ultimate, the little kid musician who dreams about, I want to play in the band and travel the world and I want people to know who I am. Well, luckily at my age, I'm living that. So, but I do it in a very humble way. I'm not, when you meet me, I spend a lot of time with everybody. I don't rush away. Uh, I'm compassionate to the fans that have put me where I am. So the last thing I'm going to do to anybody, fans or concert promoters or agents, I'm going to spend time with them and chat and talk. That's the way to do it. That's a full musician. That's what I call like 100%. You're like a full musician that way. Like, unfortunately, there's people out there that I'm not cutting anybody down, but you have to be a certain type of person to be successful, and I can tell you stories about a lot of the mega bands today, like Metallica, like Megadeth, and I know Bobby from Overkill and the Testament guys, and but you meet all these guys and they're really, really nice people. You know what I mean? And they're
Yeah.
just doing their thing. They're not out really to prove anything, but they're just spreading their art,
Hmm.
and we all hope people like it, so that's the mentality you have to have, so I hope I'm not rambling on.
No, you're fine. No, all that is very, very interesting. And it absolutely is true to work hard to put your art out there, but to also be humble. And it's the fans that at the end of the day are the most important. So
Well,
if they like your material, if they like your art, then give back to them, even just by like shaking their hand or
well,
taking a picture or whatever. Just something simple.
there was one time, we were in Germany doing with Exciter playing the festival, and I did an interview in the hotel lobby with this journalist. I can't remember. And so I did the interview and everything, and the interview was over. And then he was leaving to exit the lobby, and go outside the hotel. So I accompanied him, and we kept talking and chatting and talking and chatting about not necessarily music, but just life in general.
Hmm.
And then he says to me, "Stop." He says, "Stop right now." He says, "You have a problem." And I said, "Okay." He says, "You're too nice." And I said, "Excuse me?" Says, "You're too nice. You just did the interview with me. Now you walk me out of the hotel onto the sidewalk, and we're still chatting about this and that and the other thing." And he says, "There's no band that I've ever interviewed that spends time after the interview just hanging out with me. I said, well, you know, that's just my character.
Well,
So,
it's a good character. I
yeah.
would not say you're too nice. I like nice. I like to think I'm nice too. All right, but I mean, I definitely do agree with you that Power Rage sounds very unique. It is definitely a breath of fresh air. Most definitely darker than Exciter and heavier. And I do see some influences. Like I see a lot of like old school thrash. I see some like Merciful Fate, or I hear like other like traditional heavy metal, new wave, British heavy metal, all of that. So I do hear a combination of influences, but overall, it's definitely a very different sound. So. How did you come up with the idea, or did it all just come out naturally?
It just came out naturally. I just sat down and I just wrote riff after riff after riff, and all the vocal lines I had as well envisioned the way I wanted the vocals to kind of hover over the music.
Hmm.
So it all came together like it was pretty weird. It's almost like I was writing a soundtrack for a movie because I was visualizing the lyrics with the power of the music, and I was trying to blend them together. Like when you have an intense guitar riff or musical part in the song, I wanted the vocals to be just as intense or complement uh, the music and the guitar riff. So some called for high screams, some called for the low doomy vocals, but it came really natural. I was creating the songs piece by piece. It wasn't I did a verse and I did a chorus and I did a bridge and but I went over the songs and the whole band at rehearsal, we tweaked the songs. Obviously, I took the other band's comments, of course, uh, but I just wanted to make the most sinister sounding guitar riffs that would be implanted in people's heads, without, and I always say this, without copying anybody, but I had the motivation from all this various metal music that I listened to, So
Nice.
it came natural for me to write these songs.
Nice. Well, I definitely hear it. And now let's talk about putting together your lineup. So, I guess why did you choose every member, and what do you think that their individual contributions are?
Well, all the credit goes to Todd Pilon, my old friend from back in the day. Actually, Todd, in the late 70s, early 80s, was one of our Exciter's original road crew guys. And then he went on, we had his own band, Witch Killer, and he was the bass player. But anyways, we've been friends for decades. But he approached me to encourage me to get back into music, which I had every intention to do, but I was taking my time, and he was very persistent. Come on, we have to do this. Come on, we have to do this. So I said, okay, it's okay, Todd, we'll do it, but I'm in charge. And he said, yeah, I trust you. You have a track record. I'm your friend. Let's do this. So Todd was first. Then I called up Jacques Belanger, who played with me on three Exciter records when I had my version of Exciter for like 20 years. So Jacques was totally into it. And then the trouble was the drummer, trying to find the right drummer. So we did auditions, a few drummers, but they didn't work out. So I put an ad out here in the city because I wanted local musicians, like to have a long distance musician. It just doesn't work out schedule wise. So I put an ad here locally, and Lucas called me on the phone, and he had a great attitude. And to me, 50% is the attitude. He wanted to audition, he wanted to be there. And so a funny story, when he called me, he thought he couldn't he couldn't figure out I would put an ad in the local media here. And when he called me, he says, "Is this really John Ricci?" Yup. So, but he had a really good attitude. So I gave him a couple of Exciter songs, I think, and he passed the audition. So he was in. So we started this band trying to get it together in 2022, trying to get the whole thing rolling and all that kind of stuff. So that's how the whole lineup came together.
Oh, that's very interesting, especially the story with your drummer. That's pretty funny. But now let's talk about Jacques Belanger because because I was listening when I was preparing for the interview, revisiting some of the the stuff he did with Exciter, and definitely for PowerRage, he has way more diverse ranges. Like he goes into the very high falsettos, but then also does the deep guttural growls. So, how did you work with him on the vocals, like the vocal lines and everything?
Okay, well, that's a very tricky situation. So I had the vocals in my head. So I would mimic to the best of my ability the vocal lines for Jacques. And then he would do his rendition of it. And then I say, well, tweak a little bit there and growl a little more over there and do a little more scream over there. So that's the way we did it. It was very calm and a good experience guiding him through the vocals. So, but I mean, he has the talent. I had the ideas, but he has the talent. So it was a good mix. So, and as a result, I think these great vocal lines right through the whole album. And you're not expecting that kind of vocals coming from my background, with Exciter. So
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to go into new territory without losing anything from my past, but not relying on my past, So I think I nailed it. I think, like every day, I look at the Facebook and the comments are over the top, and I get people texting me, "Hey John, like, it's my ego should be this big, but it's not." So,
Hmm.
but I just appreciate that they appreciate my art. I have a vision, like any metal music is art, no matter if it's speed metal or doom metal or death, whatever. It's you have to listen to it. It's art,
I
like
agree.
I always have this conversation with certain friends and people like, "Oh, what do you listen to that for?" I said, "Hey, listen to it. You have to listen to it. There's an art form to it."
Hmm.
So I'm just happy that all this success in such a short time. I know that back in the early days with Exciter, of course, the internet was not as prominent as it is today. But in my opinion, PowerRage has gotten so much positive reviews in a short time than I did with Exciter, like album after album after album after album. So I'm pretty relieved that because I'm in control of everything, I'm confident that I made the right choices.
Absolutely. And then that's yeah, the vocals were the number one thing that stood out to me. Because I was like, whoa, I was not expecting, especially all the diverse, ranges. I was not expecting that. So, but yeah, but I agree. You definitely nailed, balancing between, going into new territories while also honing in on your legacy. So, but now let's talk about Beast and why did you choose that album title?
Well, it's simple. And I know there's a lot of, in heavy metal, every title, every word, it's been they're taken. Like if you Google Beast, and there's a whole bunch of bands using the name Beast or adding to the name Beast, and
Hmm.
it was just simple. And the other thing, the album cover that we have, um, originally the cover, what this cover used, the final cover was actually slightly different. That's a whole long story, but the record company hired. a graphic artist, Mario Lopez,
Mhm.
to basically exercise our idea of the cover. So he basically tweaked the artwork to what you see today. So, but it's kind of like a Terminator Beast image, which is I know it's been used 100 times, but I just came up with Beast because it was simple
Yeah.
and it sort of described the cover and it describes the music,
Hmm.
you know.
Nice. I agree. It is a very fitting title. And now let's talk about the mixing and mastering. So what was it like working with Dan Swano?
Well, Dan again was hired by High Roller Records, and we actually recorded here in Ottawa all the basic tracks live off the floor. So it was producer friends of mine that worked with me with Exciter Manfred Lydecker and his assistant George Henderson came in with a mobile studio to our rehearsal hall because the sound was fantastic in that hall. It was loud and it wasn't a controlled environment like a studio, but it sounded great, like the drums were pounding, the guitar was wailing. So I said, let's record the basic tracks in the rehearsal hall. So, and then the vocals were done actually at our Manford studio. And then we sent everything out to Dan. And Dan did all the mixing. But he and I emailed each other the mixes back and forth. I kind of helped him. I guided him up to a certain extent through some of the mixes. So that's how we came with the final mix. But all the credit goes to Dan Swino. Like he took he did take the raw sound that we had, and he did smooth it out somewhat. And he added a lot of effects on the vocals, some on the guitar. So I mean, he's been doing it, as I understand, since the late 1980s that,
Yeah.
that I've read,
Hmm.
his profile, and he's worked with these great metal bands. So, but he and I had a really good, respectful relationship. We're mixing the album.
Nice. Yeah, because again, the production's not too clean. It's also not too gritty. It is a good balance, and it really does, I think, bring out like the heaviness in your material. But I also think it's interesting how you recorded live. And, with recording technology today, I don't really think that's as common because it just, seems like every artist just records individually and then, the producer tweaks it or yada yada. Um, I guess why did you approach I'm sorry, the decision to do like a live recording and then take that to be mixed and mastered?
Because we had to capture the energy. When you play your tracks separate, like, okay, let's do the drums, okay, let's do the guitar, let's do the bass. Even though you're listening on the headphones for reference, it just doesn't work. You have to give it the live in concert feel because you have more energy and your playing is more spontaneous. When it's control. And I've recorded studios for years, but you lose that immediate energy that comes out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're rehearsing, when we practice, it's like we're doing a live show at every rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we're doing the moves, we're into it. It's great. So I wanted to capture that energy. Like if we went in the studio and we did all the separate tracks, like you mentioned, the album wouldn't sound as intense as it does. So
Right, I do agree.
so that and it's the old school way of
Yep.
recording, like from the back in the day, I read one article, the producer that I forget his name, he's famous, but the Jimi Hendrix stuff. They recorded the band live in the studio, and he put three microphones on the drums for recording. Like that's crazy, like. But so I knew there was going to get a bit technical. I knew there was going to be bleeding, in the cymbals, you hear guitar in the background, stuff like that. But and I thought, no one's ever going to hear that anyway.
Right.
Once all the tracks are going, you're not going to hear any bleeding going on. So we had some bleeding, but it was very little.
Right. Yeah, I didn't
So
hear any.
yeah, exactly. So but I wanted to capture the energy live, us playing all at the same time. So that was my reason.
Nice. And now, let's just talk about the rest of the year. Do you have any other plans? I mean, I know the album will be released tomorrow, but do you have anything, in the pipeline for the rest of the year, like any shows or anything?
Okay, well, 2 months ago, now I can talk about this now because we're playing in Germany next year at the Keep It True Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so 2 months ago, our record company sent advance copies of the record to various media people and concert promoters. And Oliver, who does the Keep It True Festival for years and years now, he got a copy of the record. He'd send me an email like this long.
Wow.
Oh my God, John, I can't believe this album. Oh my God, you're playing my festival. That's it. You're going to headline the warm-up party, which is technically, I guess, the first day of the 3-day festival.
Mm-hmm.
So we're booked. That's done. We're booked. The
Nice.
flyer came out yesterday at the announcement,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sold out. It's already
Wow.
sold. So today's flyer is the same, but it sold out across the poster.
Wow.
So I know that festival sells out every year anyway, the warm-up party, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still really excited about that. You
Mm-hmm.
know. So that was the first gig that was offered to us. Now I have approached many promoters that I've dealt with in the past,
Mm-hmm.
or promoters I've never dealt with. You know, but nothing's come up just yet, like to have a stream of steady gigs yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once the record is actually out and everybody hears it, things should pick up from there. So there's no real scheduled plan at the moment, but I'm sure that'll change.
Nice. Well, awesome. I'm sure there will be more shows and obviously but you've been getting some great reception as it is. So I'm sure that reception is just going to keep growing. And now this is the last question. You can say anything you want. You can mention anything we didn't cover in the interview. You can thank the fans, promote the album. It's all on you.
Well, I think the album's going to please like the old Exciter fans, um, fans that normally wouldn't listen to Exciter, will probably listen to PowerRage,
Hmm.
because, like we talked before, it's the old school meets the new school, and also the way I play guitar, it's not like typical. I'm not a shredder guitar player, but there's a lot of energy in the way I play guitar, and I think people like that. Like they don't want to. I mean, this is just my opinion. The calculated guitar solos and everything, which I do have structured solos on the Power Rage music, but it's more of an impulse guitar playing that I do. But it really stands out on the album, I think. So I think the record's going to blow everybody away. Even if you're not a metal guy, person, like because I've had some close friends hear some of the material, and they're not metalheads at all,
Hmm.
but they say, John, you got something going there.
Nice.
I, so I think the record's going to be really successful. And the other thing I want to say is the record company, High Roller Records, has been, and nothing against the former record companies I've been with, but they've really promoted the record extremely well. They've come up with merchandise already, but they reached out to everyone uh, as soon as we recorded the record and it was mixed. I wasn't aware of this, but they were sending a sample of the album to everybody.
Well,
So I'm quite sure if you see the band live, and then the other thing is that the level of musicianship in the band. You can tell right off, okay, these guys have been playing for a while. They know what they're doing.
Hmm.
So so I'm quite excited about the whole future, what lies ahead.
Nice, everyone. Well, thank you for checking out this interview. Beast will be out tomorrow. That is April 24th. It will more than likely be out by the time the interview is posted. So be sure to check out the album, support Power Rage, and if you will be at Keep It True Festival, you said in 27, right? Or
It's
25?
a year. Well, yeah, it's a year away.
Okay.
It's next year.
Okay.
But hey, that's okay. It's all right. But I mean, there's going to be more gigs coming up.
Absolutely.
But that was the first confirmed gig, which I'm pretty happy with because
Oh,
I didn't
absolutely.
know what the hell was going to happen, with the band. Like, we could have bombed and no one likes the material. Oh, you should pack it up and maybe try again next time. But it's completely the opposite. And it's just the fact that Oliver from Keep It True um, offers a gig, just he didn't even think twice about it, you know?
Right. And that is quite the gig too. So
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that is awesome. But yeah, if you'll be at Keep It True Festival in 2027, then be sure to check out Power Rage playing the headlining set, the warm-up, the warm-up show the first day. So, and then keep up with everything Power Rage is doing. I'll have all their social media links and where you can purchase the album and in the description of the video. So stay metal, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Stephanie.